From the Post-Millennial, Rep. Andy Ogles calls for investigation into Zohran Mamdani's naturalization over potential support for terrorism. He calls for an investigation over potential willful misrepresentation or concealment of material support for terrorism. This is pretty wild. So we've got this, Libs of TikTok says, holy crap, calling for the denaturalization and deportation of Democrat mayoral nominee Zohran Mamdani, writing, Dear Attorney General Bondi, I write to request that the Department of Justice open an investigation into whether Zohran Mamdani, who he called Little Muhammad, by the way, currently a candidate for mayor of New York City, should be subject to denaturalization proceedings under 8 U.S.C. 1451A on the grounds that he may have procured U.S. citizenship through willful misrepresentation or concealment of material support for terrorism. According to public reports, including a June 21st, 2025 New York Post article, Mr. Mamdani expressed open solidarity with individuals convicted of terrorism-related offense prior to becoming a U.S. citizen. Specifically, he rapped, quote, Free the Holy Land 5 / My Guys. The Holy Land Foundation was convicted in 2008 of providing material support to Hamas, a designated foreign terrorist organization. Publicly praising the foundation's convicted leadership as My Guys raises serious concerns about whether Mr. Mamdani held affiliations or sympathies he failed to disclose during the naturalization process. While I understand that some may raise First Amendment concerns about taking legal action based on expressive conduct, such as rap lyrics, speech alone does not preclude accountability where it reasonably suggests underlying conduct relevant to eligibility for naturalization. If an individual publicly glorifies a group convicted of financing terrorism, it is entirely appropriate for federal authorities to inquire whether the individual engaged in non-public forms of support, such as organizational affiliation, fundraising, or advocacy, that would have required disclosure on Form N-400 or during a naturalization interview. Moreover, Mr. Mamdani has recently refused opportunities to reject pro-terrorist rallying cry to globalize the Intifada, a call to expand violent attacks on civilians to the United States and around the world. While political speech in isolation is not dispositive, in light of earlier expressions of admiration for individuals convicted of supporting terrorism, a troubling pattern emerges that warrants formal scrutiny. The naturalization process depends on the good faith disclosure or any affiliation with support for groups that threaten U.S. national security. If Mamdani concealed relevant associations, that concealment may constitute material misrepresentation sufficient to support denaturalization under federal law. The federal government must uphold public trust by ensuring that citizenship is not granted under false pretenses. I respectfully urge the Department of Justice to determine whether Mr. Mamdani's conduct prior to naturalization warrants formal review under applicable law. And I'll say it first, I'm for it. Investigate him. 100%.
The investigation, I don't have any problem with.
Exactly.
The idea of, well, look, the further to the extremes you go when you're discussing, when it comes to political speech, the further to the extremes you go when you, according to your ideology, the more likely you are to engage in violent rhetoric. And Mamdani does walk the line. Anyone that says globalize the Intifada, they're at least skirting the line of
I'm not trying to be
speech,
contrarian, but it was just that he failed to denounce something or other. Like, it was other people chanting that, and they said that he didn't denounce it, which I think is a weird
Did he say
game
he didn't
that people play where they say, like, why didn't you denounce murder? Like, why didn't you condemn Hamas? Like,
It's a little more than that.
the condemnation is kind of just implicit, no matter what.
He was asked in an interview what he thought about phrases like globalize the Intifada. And he said, well, you know, it means different things to different people. And some people think it means like a peaceful revolution. So
yeah, see, but even that's skirting, that's trying to be deceptive. That's not trying to be fulsome. That's not actually addressing the concern that people have when they ask that question. He's trying to skirt the issue. He's trying to not.
I mean, he's a politician now, but I would just say I hate this stuff. I absolutely hate it. I think for a couple of reasons. For one, I think there is a real First Amendment issue with denaturalizing someone because we don't like what they say. I mean, saying my love to you guys, I don't really know that he thought that much about it. It was in a rap video, and I also hate it because I think that these kind of stunts, for one, it's not going to be successful, and for two, it's going to galvanize his supporters. And I think there are a lot of reasons to really dislike this mayoral candidate. I mean, he's anathema to a lot of the things I stand for. But, you know, Nancy Mace is already out here taking a poll on her X profile saying, you know, implying that she thinks that it's a decent proposal, and I think it ends up making a martyr out of him, and I think that's very unwise. Going back to my first point, though, I think if the right wants to claim to stand for free speech, they have to also stand for speech that is really unsavory. That is the point of the First Amendment, and that's the point of a principle. If you don't apply it when it's inconvenient, then it doesn't matter. It's not a principle.
Well, so there's two things.
Was that on her personal profile? Just sorry, real quick. I want to.
I think that the one where she's wearing the pink dress. So yeah, that would be her civilian profile. Should we? She's taking a poll right now for her followers.
So there's two things about this that I want to at least make a comment about. First of all, the guy that's actually been talking about denaturalizing and deporting him, he's calling him Little Mohammed, and that actually that kind of hurts the argument, because then it seems
Why
like
is he calling him that?
Pardon me?
Is he calling him
He's
that?
Muslim.
Yeah, because he's
Just because he's Muslim?
Yeah. So and whatever your opinion on that kind of rhetoric, you're going to galvanize the people against you. They're going to call him a racist. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be saying
With
that.
a nickname like that,
I don't know.
He thinks that he's doing the Trump thing, and he's not doing.
I think he
Trump.
wants followers
It's
on
not
social media.
landing.
He wants followers on social media. That's what
Maybe,
this is for.
or he's trying to get. Well, I think the city in the U.S. with the largest Jewish population is New York.
Yeah, it
and
is.
so that kind of branding, when that story drops and they say Rep. Ogles is a racist for calling him Little Muhammad, that's gonna penetrate deeper into communities in New York, especially Jewish communities, which I think the intention is to try and get them to come out and vote against them.
Sure, and I mean, I will say I disagree with this guy's, what I know of this guy's stance towards, the pro-Israel Palestine discussion. But I don't know. Like I said, I really do feel like this ends up backfiring. And I mean, what's the point?
I disagree.
And I'll say this: the mayoral election, a local election. I know New York City is an enormous place, but it becoming a referendum on foreign policy doesn't really make sense to me. I understand Jewish voters wanting to at least have knowledge vote of someone that they, whose character they like. But the mayor of New York has no say on foreign policy. It seems almost kind of silly that we're as a nation, we're looking to him to be a thought leader on this, when we should be talking about, how he's going to lead New York City, which there are plenty of things he's going to do to New York City that are really bad.
I don't think anybody has any expectation of him engaging in foreign policy. I think the
It's
argument is
because a lot of the rhetoric that he's using on social media and on his campaign website is talking about issues that go and reach far beyond the city, even though he knows that there's no possibility of follow through on that.
Right.
Like, I'm going to be a candidate that stands up to Trump. That doesn't mean anything. You're running for mayor.
Yeah. Well,
like, it's an important city, but
no, it does mean something when he says that they're going to obstruct immigration enforcement and obstruct
that
federal
is
law.
one thing he said. Like, we want to make this into a sanctuary city for immigrants, and also he said that he wanted it to be an LGBTQ sanctuary city,
which literally just means so that if you're underage and can get to New York City, they will perform all kinds of gender mutilation on you.
So here's a question for you guys. Here's Nancy Mace's poll. Should Zohran Mamdani be denaturalized and deported? Yes, no, not sure. What do you think won? Which one do you think is winning? I think yes.
Yes.
It's Nancy Mace's audience, so I think yes, but I would vote no if I could.
All right. So what's the votes in the room? You say no. What do you say, Mary?
I already voted yes.
Okay, you voted yes.
Yeah.
What say you, Phil?
Yes, for being a communist, not for anything else. Oh, literally, only because of his ideology.
Yes.
I don't care.
I voted yes because he's not American and has no right to be here.
Well, he is American because he's a
naturalized.
citizen.
Yeah, he's a citizen.
Yeah, I just don't believe that he is meaningfully American more than someone who was.
I reject the
And whose
idea that
parents
the
are
only way you can be American is by being born here. I
reject that too.
All of us, we won the geographic lottery. I like what America stands for, but I think there's something
Well, it's
powerful
not really a
about.
lottery because
We didn't do anything by being born here.
Yeah, so
don't
we
think
didn't earn it.
Right, exactly.
Okay,
Right, so I should.
These people chose to come here, and that should be celebrated.
You're acting like,
And
like
so-
your soul is like a die that gets rolled into the universe, and that's not actually how that works. It's not a lottery because your ancestors actually did make the effort to come here. They did make the effort to build lives here for generations, and you are the result of that. There's nothing random about it.
Well, but it wasn't my agency, and so I'm saying I think I'm an American, and I like America, and like I said, what it stands for. But I think there is something powerful about, there's been a lot of talk right now that that New York City specifically has a big foreign-born population, which I'll make a couple of points. For one, that's not new. I mean, Ellis Island, it has always represented, kind of this melting pot and a promise of opportunity, and I think that is a good thing.
Okay,
And
I
so
would
if
prefer
someone
not to conflate immigration
Now, hold on.
1965 with post.
Right. Now, this is important though. No one here did anything to earn what this country was.
That's what I'm saying.
And that's why I deserve your stuff when you die, not your children. Your children should get nothing from you. The state should seize everything you built in your life, and I get to have it.
Do you believe that?
You do.
No, I don't.
You certainly, you just argue that people who aren't from here can have all the stuff that the Americans built.
That's not at all what I argue.
So if like my dad builds a baseball field and then someone comes and they're not from here, I should have no right to the commons that my family and ancestors built because we didn't earn it. We were just born here.
I'm talking specifically about people who come here. I mean, there's a
Like who built the Brooklyn Bridge?
I mean, I am not, but I wouldn't take credit for it.
I think it was the Brooklyn Bridge Corporation.
I mean, to me, that's an analogy that doesn't really work. All I am saying.
Yeah, why do you get to keep your stuff? Why can't I have it?
I mean, I'm not saying that family means nothing. My argument is not that family is worthless. What I am saying, though, is that there are some people who are Americans by choice, and that is a powerful thing. They came here because of what America stands for.
Do you think that Mamdani came here because of what America stands for? Because I don't think
7 years old.
So so he's not an American by choice then. He's an American because his family came.
Parents, yeah.
This is a deception. He was raised with completely different values because of the culture from which he came.
And
He's not meaningfully American.
That I agree
There
with
are
that.
There's nothing about him.
This is something that I actually said last night. Like the idea that everybody that comes to America is all the same, every immigrant is exactly the same, and it's totally not true. And I think that the United States should be able to deport people or at least exclude people that don't embrace the values that make the United States the country that it is, which includes property rights, it includes things like liberty and stuff like that. So
here's a question I have. We'll start slow with it. Do you believe that if you, let's say you build a house and you own the land, when you die, should it go to your children or whoever you choose in your will?
Yes.
What is the meaningful distinction between that and a society handing down what it's built to its own children?
I think that there is something to be said for families handing down a society to their own children, but I don't think that necessarily excludes everyone else from it, because they build things too. They come and add to it. They don't just take. The idea that immigrants come and only take, they also build. Your analysis, I understand where you're coming from, but it's a static analysis.
Well, all right,
the way I look at the world is more dynamic.
What percentage are they entitled to?
Say again?
What percentage are they entitled to? 100%? Like, so
what do you mean of entitled to what? Entitled to public services, entitled to welfare? I mean, I'm a libertarian, so like I would like to slash a lot of these programs that people criticize.
Well, then let's try it like this. You're 400 years ago, your ancestor comes and stakes a plot of land. It's got a river going through it, and then builds up a big property on it and says, with my hard work, my kids will have a better life. And after several generations, dozens of generations, here you are inheriting that land. What percentage of your land should be shared with someone who came here for the first time 7 years ago?
Well, we're talking about private property. So if that person wants
What's the distinction?
I mean, I'm not saying that an immigrant can come and invade this space you have that you bought and is yours.
Well, the reason I asked you this because you said you were a libertarian, so my assumption is you prefer privatization over public property, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if you had private property, then what percentage of that must you share with someone who just showed up and is on your property?
Private property? You don't have to share any of it.
Okay, so why then should we as a nation, which the distinction is a collective group has determined where our borders and boundaries are, and it is private among our country, should we be obligated to share it with anybody else?
I mean, the distinction between private or public, or you said private among our country? I mean, there are some spaces that...
Like there's jurisdiction, right?
Right, but that doesn't...
When you say private, what you're saying is it's land controlled by you as a private entity or individual.
Right, but I'm not entitled to the entire country. I'm entitled... I just bought a house, for instance.
Indeed. So
I'm entitled to my house.
Understood.
Someone cannot come into my house.
So here's the point. A country has its own jurisdictions for which the country controls, yes?
By voters, yes.
Well, depending on the structure of your government. Right. Some might be communist, I guess. Some could be monarchy.
We're talking about America.
So why should Americans have to share anything with non-citizens who came here now?
You don't have to share your private property.
Okay, I think you're misunderstanding. Okay?
Oh, no, I'm understanding. I'm not trying to be offensive.
The American people created the country, established its boundaries, sacrificed blood and treasure to acquire the land and establish what is the American people's property as a public commonwealth.
So I'll stop you right there. That is the fundamental difference that we have. I do not feel entitled to everything that came before me. I feel entitled to what I just bought because it was my blood, sweat, and tears, and I'm paying my mortgage.
Okay, so let's go from that point.
Okay.
At what point must you personally, under your own beliefs, give away what your ancestors built? Is it your dad? Like your dad built a farm. Should you have to give it to someone who just showed up or share it with them?
No, but that is that's because it's a private farm.
But you're not entitled to the things that came before you. Like where's the gradient? Like where's the line? Is it if your great-grandfather made it, you have to share it with an immigrant?
Well, we're not sharing private property, Tim.
Well, at a certain point, it becomes the public commons. There's too many people, right?
No, this is the fundamental basic distinction between private and public property.
What is it?
Private is, I mean, I'm a big fan of property rights.
What is it? What's the distinction?
I mean, what I own, what I paid for. I mean, like...
No. You didn't pay for what your great-grandfather made. Why do you get to have that? You didn't earn it.
Sure, but it was purchased via... It's not owned by the government.
No, he stole it from Native Americans.
I mean, that's a whole different discussion.
So let's say several hundred years ago, your great-great-grandfather or great-great-great-grandfather conquered land by force, massacring a family, whatever it might have been. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he traded some beads for it. I don't know. But now... we're several generations on, you never paid for it, you just inherit it, and you're like, it's private property because someone handed me a piece of paper because they put a flag in it. Why can't a guy from Honduras just come and go, yeah, well, you didn't earn it, it's mine now?
I mean, because as a society, we have decided that there's a distinction between private and public property.
Completely agreed. As a society, I think we should determine that Zohran Mamdani should be denaturalized and deported because the American founders built this country and we have no requirement to share it with anybody. Just like you've decided your line is simply my personal family, I believe as the American country is an organized entity. So the only distinction is what we think we are owed or claim to.
Sure, and I just don't feel entitled to the entire country. I mean, and like I said, I think there is common ground to be had here in the sense that, like, America stands for a lot of beautiful things. It stands for freedom of expression. It stands for property rights, what we're talking about. It stands for a lot of things that make us exceptional. I would not call myself a nationalist, but I would say I'm an American exceptionalist. I believe we're better than most everyone. I mean, you look at stuff that's even happening in like the UK and Germany getting arrested over Facebook posts. I understand why people want to come here. I think it's beautiful that some people are Americans by choice, and I don't think that makes them any less American.
When they vote against the interests of the American people, we have a problem.
And when they, on net, steal from the American people. And I would like to add, it's not by a consensus that all of society has just collectively decided what a border is and what private property is. The border of the walls around your house or the border of like your actual skin barrier or the fence surrounding your backyard, it's only defined by your willingness to kill someone who violates that line, who crosses that line.
Sure, but
it's not by consensus that all of society has decided.
I'm not saying we need to have open borders. I'm just saying it's beautiful that some people, I mean, people will have lots of disagreements on immigration policy. But I'm just saying it's beautiful that some people come here because they want to, because we stand for amazing things. I mean, do you think we should literally have zero immigration?
Yes.
No one should be allowed in?
People come here to benefit from being here personally and send money back home. They don't care about American values.
Now, she's got a great point because nowadays, most of the people that are coming to America are not coming because they have American values.
The majority of naturalized citizens in 2024 voted for Trump. It's 10% of the electorate that went for Trump +1.
Just because they voted for Trump doesn't mean that they have American values.
Closer to the values that you guys are talking about.
It's by no mistake what you consider to be American values anyway, because those values were held by Christian Europeans who moved here. You can't just ship anyone here and expect them to uphold those values.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.